Hey guys, the Rick is here, back with my day 2 update on PoE 2. I have a few points on the game I want to talk about. Most of them are sadly somewhat negative, and I also have a few tricks on how to make the monk experience just a bit less horrible. We got to level 34, and I'll tell you, it was a chore. First we go and see what actually somewhat works on Monk. I'll go through the skills I think work pretty well throughout the levels. As I died about 200 times to get to level 34, that's all I can safely report on. Anything else is speculation. As sad as it is, in the beginning you will want to use your auto-attack. Yep, that's right, it will literally be the best skill for use in single target. It's not a meme. For clear, you will most likely want to use Glacial Cascade. It is freezing and it is at a range, so it's pretty safe. Frozen Locust is a bit awkward to use, but it can be a great way to gain some much needed distance to your enemies. It also acts as a barrier for projectiles, which is helpful too. You or your enemies can hit it and it will explode and deal some okay damage. Once you get Tempest Spell, you will want to spam it. It is a great skill and probably the strongest skill you will get until at least the point where I am at level 34. Tempest Spell is best paired with a fast-hitting skill like Tempest Flurry or even Ice Strike. Ice Strike isn't quite as fast, but it is frost damage, so there will be the added benefit of being freezing and then disabling your enemies. Siphoning Strike can be a great way to gain both power charges and use it as a movement skill to dash from one to the next enemy. Stormweave is probably the safest way to clear enemies at a range. It is pretty much playing melee as a ranged, but it is very safe, so if you're in for boring and not dying a lot, you will probably want to use Stormwave. Just as a last point, be careful if you want to use any of these frost skills, you should not get one of these crackling quarterstaves. These are pretty high in damage, as they deal a lot of lightning damage, and they work well with your lightning skills, but the frost skills you have, they convert physical damage to cold damage, and they have no physical damage in here, so you're straight out of luck and you cannot utilize the freezing part of your skills. One last thing before we talk about how it feels to play Monk, WASD. WASD feels really natural and smooth, even with melee, and gotta say, it feels amazing with ranged skills. Now, to the glaring pain points, or as I like to call it, the melee experience in PoE 2. Game difficulty and speed. The game was always intended to be slower than PoE 1, and that's fair. We can expect it to get a little bit faster in the endgame, when we should be able to achieve higher player power. It, however, is also very difficult. I'm not the best player, so fair play. I died to some things other players would not die to, but the game is heavily imbalanced in my opinion in the early game. Trash mobs. Trash mobs as in regular mobs that isn't a boss, or at the very least a rare enemy that is supposed to be a minor challenge. They're so heavily overtuned I can't begin to tell you how bad it feels. This is at least partially a problem because Monk is melee and melee is just weaker. Normal mobs are very strong, they're numerous, fast, and they will surround and corner you in no time because you need to get close to them if you're not playing minions or ranged. That wouldn't be that much of an issue if those scenarios left you in a spot where you were wounded and have to manage life flask, but you just straight up be body blocked and die right there. If you don't manage to freeze those enemies, that will always be a death sentence. In my opinion, the dodge roll they so lovingly took from Souls-likes and put in their Souls-like ARPG should be phasing. Especially in layouts that have narrow passes, this happens a lot. You need to full clear and inch your way forward. If you leave out any mob behind you, it will body block you, and when you try to clear the next pack, you will die. In PoE 1, we could flame dash out of these deadly situations we found ourselves in and got to reset the playing field, but no more. This is also why dying feels extremely punishing. All mobs respawn and you will have to do it all over again. In long wound maps, this feels like a chore. It doesn't feel like playing a game. Bosses. Mark specifically mentioned bosses being a love child, and I think it's fair that they are the way they are. I'm totally fine with playing bosses like a Souls-like, go in, die to a mechanic, learn the signals, and learn how to deal with it. That might not be everyone's cup of tea, and I'm not the biggest fan, as I'm not the biggest fan of Souls-likes, but it is one of the hard parts of the game that don't feel infuriating. You learn and you overcome. Also, how do hardcore players do these? If only it wasn't for the trash mobs you have to clear en masse before you even get to try. You're burnt out before you even get to experience the boss. The melee experience. Many of the previous pain points feel exaggerated by playing melee, and by the way, the worst melee of them all, Monk. First off, you're inherently at a disadvantage of having to be close to your enemies because you're melee. You should be able to make this up by one of two things, defenses or damage. Either you're a brawn fighter and can take a punch like a warrior, or you're more flimsy but evaporate your enemies with ease, staying in the fight only shortly. Monk does neither. At least in early game, it is impossible to rely on evasion and energy shield as it is in PoE. I suspect this to be better in late game, but the road there is atrocious, and you have no life nodes anywhere near Monk start, and you can't rely on the defenses your class is built around either, so you're straight out of luck. The 4-second delay before energy shield recharge starts is also very slow. Energy shield is essentially useless as a melee in campaign if you don't want to get out of fight every few seconds. We can boost the start time and the very slow recharge speed, but it needs some major investment, and that's not really an option early game, leaving you with absolutely nothing for defenses. If only you could do enough damage to decimate your enemies, that would be good, but Monk is way too weak. You will mostly have to rely on melee skills with a high range, kinda defeating the purpose, and they don't really do that much damage, at least with trash. Having elemental ignore and crit is really powerful though, so bosses actually get DPS down pretty fast, so there's some upside if you get to invest in crit early on. GGG said they would fix melee in PoE 2, but really they fixed it in PoE 1 Settlers League. The melee experience in PoE 2 is just pretty much horrible up until now, and it feels like melee was an afterthought at best. And I'm thinking people playtested this and okayed it. I'm not sure how that happened. I kind of don't even understand it. I'm near my 30s, extreme APM and constant high alert required as a baseline for a melee might be something for people with a better reaction time than me, but that's not how I play, and melee is just a chore really here. It's not much fun, not what I hoped it would be. Literally all people in my friend list that are higher at level 20 are ranged or minion players, and it really shows. I hope we will have our melee redemption soon. I will continue to sacrifice my fun for science. I have the faint hope we will be rewarded for all the suffering we go through as monks. It is slim, but the hope dies at last. If all else fails, just go grenades or minions and play the game on easy mode. Alright, we did enough whining, back to grinding our sanity down, dying as a monk, and soon we have elemental expressions, and we might just see a bit of the power we will get in late game. Alright, thanks for watching, and see you in the next one. Cheers.